But you alerted me to this little absurdity. Time magazine has published it's called the Time 100 Climate 2024 list. It's like 100 brilliant campaigners for the climate, save the planet and all that. In the middle of this list, bizarrely, if you ask me, is Prince Harry. You know, that private jet fan who spends most of his life flying around the planet in planet-destroying jets, often private jets. So he's no great eco-warrior, if you ask me, but he's being cited here, or being praised by Time magazine, because he works with this company called Travelist. Travelists are all about teaching you and me and all of us plebs, you know, if we're going to go on holiday, how to keep our carbon emissions low. Prince Harry doesn't worry about any of that, but he wants us to be very concerned about the carbon emissions caused by our vacations. I mean, frankly, he can go to hell.
He was inspired to create Travelist while a working member of the royal family. I mean, Kevin, I think we could talk all day long, obviously, about these participation trophies and what the ultimate objective is for these two, because we know that what they're trying to do is they're trying to force people to, they're trying to buy credibility, right? They want to demand that we respect them in these different arenas. And of course, we could say practice what you preach. Absolutely. But it's interesting to me that when they are gifted something, particularly Prince Harry, Travelist, he's getting this acknowledgement from Time with the Pat Tillman Award that was for Invictus. Isn't it interesting that he's rewarded for these entities that started under the royal family umbrella, put together by experts, put together by the gray suits that knew what they were doing? It seems like the only successful entities they have are these, you know, organizations, foundations, companies that were built under the royal family umbrella. Everything else is falling apart because they don't have that template that was built by the royal families. But they say, you know, Travelist is a nonprofit that provides people booking travel with emissions and other sustainability data, so they can consider the lowest impact when they're making their plans. Well, here's an idea for you. If you want to have like the lowest emissions when traveling for vacation, don't buy a beach house in Portugal. I mean, that seems like quite the trek. Yeah. You're going back and forth to Portugal.
Exactly right. And, you know, maybe, you know, don't leave a private jet idling on the runway of Santa Barbara Airport because you forgot your polo kit, and you send your flunkies back to Montecito to pick your kit up, and then you take it back to your plane, and then you fly in your private jet to Chicago to play one game of polo, and then you fly back to California. I'm not against the principle of Travelist. You know, we should all do our best, I guess, to help the environment, but I'm not taking lectures from this guy who spends most of his life in the air destroying the planet, and, as I say, who once kept a private jet idling for about an hour on the runway while his staff went to get the kit that he'd forgotten before he flew on a private jet to Colorado to play polo. I mean, come on, hypocrisy doesn't even begin to cover it, does it?
It's very let them eat cake, but I'd also say, you know, how ridiculous to put Prince Harry on a list with Bill Gates. And I know that a lot of people have issues with Bill Gates too, but it just goes to show how willing some of these publications are and some of these media outlets are, how willing they are to let go of their own credibility for access to two people that might give them a little bit more attention, that might we're talking about it right now. Would you and I be talking about this climate list from Time magazine if Prince Harry's name weren't on it? No.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's just, I'm not against the principle of Travelist. I'm not against the Time magazine's 100 climate list if it wants to do that. Although,
But they are honoring him.
Yeah, but
it's not, it's for Travelist, but the name is Prince Harry that's on there.
Exactly. But here's his quote. This is what he said about all this. As I sought solutions to some of the world's most pressing conservation challenges. This is Prince Harry. As I sought solutions to some of the world's most pressing conservation challenges, I quickly realised just how profound an impact the travel and tourism industry has. Together we are proving that travel can be a force for the good, so let's continue this journey together and make sure that travel benefits everyone everywhere. Well, he's not in this journey with us together, is it? Because he lives a very different life. Private jets, flying everywhere. As you say, just bought a house in Portugal where some say he may soon have to permanently live. He is a one-man sort of pollution bonanza.
Yeah, I mean, we're not in this together. I will never sit next to Prince Harry on a flight anywhere. There's no way, because and I will say, when I first saw this, I thought to myself, well, we haven't really read about them on private jets lately, but are they just better at hiding it? Because he's traveled more than ever lately. All of a sudden we wake up and he was in Chicago several days ago. Yeah. So I just think that they've gotten better at hiding it. I think if Prince Harry was on a commercial flight to Chicago, I would have heard about it before he gave that information to People magazine.
Yeah, and well, let's talk about that recent trip. I mean, don't forget, even if you're climbing on passenger jets left, right and centre, you're not exactly helping the environment. And Harry, as I say, seems to spend most of his life in the air on gas-guzzling jets. So, he is not the sort of shining light of the environment industry, is he? I'm a bit with Donald Trump, actually, all this climate emergency stuff. Donald Trump says it's a hoax. I better not subscribe to that, but let's say I'm rather enjoying Donald Trump's approach to this, and Harry won't like it. And Harry also won't like the fact that, old Donald's going to look at his visa, and he may say that you haven't got the right to say because of your drug use, or maybe you lied on your application, your visa application. We'll come to that in just a second, Kinsey. But let's talk about that trip to Chicago. It was to the Pat Tillman Foundation. You remember he got that award for service earlier in the year, and Pat Tillman, a football star and a military hero who gave his life for your great country, his mother, Mary, was furious that a foreign prince that she'd never met, barely heard of, suddenly got this award, on an ESPN programme. Obviously, again, it's because it's Prince Harry, but it upset Mary. To be fair to Harry, he climbed on another plane, went to Chicago recently to attend another event, did it very quietly. So good for him. He's obviously trying to make amends there, trying to mend bridges. Nothing against that, but big question, where was Meghan? Does this guy ever go anywhere with his wife anymore?
I think that that's a really good question. We saw the video of them that they released a few days after that, but we have no idea when that was filmed. I don't know what's going on. I either feel like they're behind the scenes, Meghan specifically behind the scenes, scheming and really desperate and overwhelmed, trying to ensure that American Riviera Orchard isn't a flop, because some would argue that this is her last chance. If this bombs, then who's going to want to work with this couple going forward? Because like I just pointed out, it seems like everything that is deemed a legitimate success is something that was built under the royal family umbrella by the men in the gray suits that knew what they were doing and had these templates ready to go. Everything else seems to be falling apart. So, and I'm telling you, everyone I talk to, and I've had this conversation several times this week, where is American Riviera Orchard? And everybody's like, I don't know. Everyone is truly like, this is the biggest failure of a brand launch ever. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Kinsey, if that's her last chance, I don't fancy her chances at all, because I think that's going nowhere fast for all the reasons we've discussed. Whether or not she's still committed to it is up for discussion. A lot of people say she's just fed up with all the troubles. And, she's a bit like that. She's a great starter of projects, and then she seems to lose interest. I think you didn't agree with me. I reckon she has lost interest in that.
Can I just say, one of my girlfriends, Maureen Callahan, I had her on the show this week, and she said, this killed me because it was just so truthful. She said, this woman is sitting around all day in Montecito, California, fighting with patent offices. How unglamorous is that? Yeah. And I thought, my God, you're so right. She used to rush from set to set to get her hair and makeup professionally done, and call the paparazzi to make sure they were snapping her as she walked outside of the yoga studio in Toronto. And now she's sitting at home fighting trademarks. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing sexy or glamorous about that.
The last time they were seen together in a happy circumstance, they were in the back of a car, they were photographed, where they were all smiles. There was Tyler Perry, their big mate in Hollywood, the billionaire Hollywood producer. It was his 55th birthday down in LA, I think, and they went to that, and that was September. They haven't really been seen together like that since then. The rumours about that marriage are soaring. The rancid rumours that all is not well. But what has cast a big cloud over sunny Montecito, I think, is this: that Donald Trump has become the president, or he's the president-elect now. Now, Meghan, well-known, classic, rather sort of stereotypical West Coast Democrat liberal. I mean, she'll be devastated by this. Donald Trump is the apotheosis of everything she stands for. He is really the polar opposite of Meghan Markle, so she will hate that. But Harry is mortified, apparently, because Donald Trump says, I'm going to look at this guy's visa. If he lied on that visa form, I might kick him out of the country. With old Donald, you never know. I mean, he's a mischief maker. He's a disruptor. He enjoys this sort of thing. But it is apparently true that when the gruesome twosome, Harry and Meghan, bought that $7 million mansion in Portugal recently, a lot of people are saying in Harry's case, it may be with a view to a permanent move, because he might have to leave America. He might get kicked out of America. Now, my instinct is Donald won't go that far, but Harry apparently is extremely nervous about this. So all in all is not well behind the gilded gates of Montecito Towers.
He has to be questioning his decisions when it came to the amount of information he delivered in Spare. That was really unnecessary. The details he gave us in Spare, and in some cases kind of glamorizing drug use, and he certainly wasn't encouraging it, but he also made it sound like a really great time, being at Courtney Cox's house and talking to the trash can. I think that he probably has a lot of regrets when it comes to the details that he included in Spare, because realistically, no one would have questioned him had he just acknowledged some of the headlines that were already out there in the world that were associated with drug use. If he would have just said, yeah, this one time I got caught doing this, and then my God, this is the same guy who was dishonest about where he was when the Queen Mother passed away. a quick Google search of that date and his name, he would have seen the photo of him with his father and brother on a ski slope versus Eaton, where he says he was just a lonely boy with a stranger on the other end of the phone that broke his heart with the news that his great-grandmother had died and left him a fortune. But I would say that he has to have some sort of regrets at this point, because he could have simply looked at past headlines about his bad behavior, solely acknowledged those, but he went into detail, and in doing so, he jeopardized his place in the United States. Because, I mean, he's even talked about doing drugs at Tyler Perry's house, like when they were just staying there.
Exactly right. Drug users aren't allowed into America. He either told the truth on his visa application, that he did use drugs, in which case, why was he allowed to live there? Because I wouldn't be able to, normal British people wouldn't be allowed to. Or he lied and didn't pretended he hadn't taken drugs. That's a federal offence for which the Heritage Foundation think tank in Washington believes he should be thrown out of America. Just very quickly, because we're going to have to move on in just a second, but Niall Gardner, the director of the Heritage Foundation, who is campaigning and waging a legal battle to get that visa application made public, and Donald Trump, by the way, is quite sympathetic to that idea. He's recently given an interview in the last few hours. He said this, challenging the validity of Harry's US visa. He said, Harry and Meghan are viewed as just massive narcissists who spend all the time trashing the royal family. Most Americans really admire the royal family. The Queen was hugely popular with Americans, and they don't take kindly to attacks on the royal family. All these attacks from Harry and Meghan, they've gone down very badly in the United States. They have alienated most Americans, and I think one of the Americans they alienated is Donald Trump. These are strong words.
Yeah, and me. I loved them. I think had they come here and been high vibes, stayed under the radar, worked with charities, you know, produced charity-driven content for whatever streaming service, you know, did what they said they were going to do with Spotify, and talked to people that were making, you know, change makers in communities. And then Meghan goes and interviews Paris Hilton and Mariah Carey. Had they been positive, the American public would still love them. Yeah. Donald Trump wouldn't have an opinion on them. I mean, he doesn't like the fact that they've been negative about him in the past.
And he doesn't
but they have just been hateful, hateful, hateful. And they made the last few years of the Queen's life a living hell. And people are not going to forget that.
Nor is Donald Trump. By the way, good news for Harry. He was filmed recently at a surfing ranch place in California, catching a wave at an artificial lake. So he's a good surfer. The good news is the surfing in Portugal is amazing. So he's got his whole life ahead of him, Kinsey. Great to talk to you as always. We'll talk again on Monday.